The gleaming Steinway & Sons grand piano sat in the center of the marble-floored atrium like a sleeping giant, its ebony surface reflecting the crystal chandelier overhead. Marcus Rothwell III adjusted his Italian silk tie and smirked at the crowd of socialites gathered around him at the charity gala for the Metropolitan Arts Foundation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the entitled drawl of old money, "I have a proposition that'll make this evening far more entertaining than another boring silent auction." The crowd turned toward the 35-year-old tech billionaire, their champagne glasses glinting in the soft light. Marcus had inherited his grandfather's railroad fortune and multiplied it tenfold through strategic investments in Silicon Valley startups. Tonight, like every night, he was the center of attention. "You see this magnificent instrument?" He gestured grandly toward the piano. "This particular piece was owned by Vladimir Horowitz himself. It's worth more than most people's houses. Now I've been told by several lovely ladies this evening that I'm quite the catch." He paused for the expected tittering from the crowd. "So here's my challenge. If anyone, and I mean anyone, can play Chopin's Belladno, 1 in G minor on this piano to my satisfaction, I'll marry them on the spot. I'll even throw in a honeymoon to the French Riviera." The crowd erupted in nervous laughter. Several well-dressed women exchanged glances, but none stepped forward. Marcus had chosen one of the most technically demanding pieces in the classical repertoire, requiring years of intensive training to master. "What's the matter?" Marcus taunted. "All those expensive piano lessons your parents paid for, and nobody's willing to take a shot at becoming Mrs. Rothwell." From the back of the atrium, near the service entrance, a quiet voice spoke up. "I'll give it a try." The crowd parted like the Red Sea, revealing a slight black man in his 60s wearing a janitor's uniform. His name tag read Samuel. He pushed his cleaning cart to one side and walked slowly toward the piano, his weathered hands steady at his sides. Marcus's jaw dropped before transforming into a cruel grin. Well, 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 the help wants to play my piano." He turned to the crowd, milking the moment. "This should be rich folks. I hope he at least knows chopsticks." The crowd's uncomfortable laughter filled the space as Samuel approached the bench. He didn't acknowledge the mockery, didn't even look at Marcus. Instead, he ran his fingertips gently along the piano's edge, as if greeting an old friend. "Hold on there, buddy," Marcus called out, his voice dripping with condescension. "This isn't some barroom honky-tonk. That piano costs more than you'll make in 10 lifetimes. Maybe you should stick to mopping floors." Samuel finally looked up, his deep brown eyes meeting Marcus's pale blue ones. "Music doesn't care about the price of the instrument, son. It only cares about the soul of the person playing it." The old man sat down at the bench and adjusted his position slightly. The crowd fell silent, some looking embarrassed by Marcus's behavior, others simply curious to see what would happen next. Samuel placed his hands on the keys, and for a moment, everything stood still. Then he began to play. The opening notes of Chopin's Belladno. One filled the atrium with haunting beauty. But this wasn't just technically proficient playing, this was poetry in motion. Samuel's fingers danced across the keys with impossible grace, each note perfectly weighted, each phrase shaped with the wisdom of someone who understood not just the mechanics of the piece, but its emotional depths. The crowd stood transfixed. Marcus's smirk faded, replaced by confusion, then amazement, then something approaching fear. As Samuel moved into the piece's more challenging passages, his playing became transcendent. The rapid scales sparkled like cascading water, the thunderous bass notes resonated through the marble floors, and the delicate melodic lines sang with heartbreaking beauty. This wasn't just someone who could play Chopin, this was someone who could make Chopin weep. The society ladies dabbed at their eyes with silk handkerchiefs. Grown men found themselves holding their breath during the most tender passages, then exhaling in wonder as Samuel navigated the technical fireworks with effortless precision. When the final notes faded into silence, the atrium remained perfectly quiet for several long moments. Then someone began to clap, and within seconds, the entire crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Marcus stood frozen, his face pale. He had expected humiliation, but instead witnessed artistry that put his own piano. Lessons to shame. Samuel stood up from the bench, straightened his uniform, and walked over to where Marcus stood slack-jawed. "Now," the older man said with a gentle smile, "about that marriage proposal. I'm flattered, son, but I've been happily married to my Dolores for 42 years. Besides, I'm probably not your type." The crowd erupted in laughter, but it was warm laughter now, not the cruel kind that had filled the room earlier. Double quotes. Who are you?" Marcus stammered. Samuel's smile widened. "Samuel Washington. I clean these floors 5 nights a week. But before that, I was Professor Washington at the Juilliard School for 35 years. Taught piano to some folks you might have heard of, Emmanuel Axe, Murray Parahia, a few others. Retired a while back, but these old hands still remember." The crowd was silent again, absorbing this revelation. "You see, Mr. Rothwell," Samuel continued, his voice kind but firm, "you made the same mistake a lot of folks make. You looked at my uniform and thought you knew everything about me. You figured someone who cleans floors couldn't possibly have anything valuable to offer. But here's the thing about assumptions. They make you miss out on some beautiful music." Marcus felt smaller than he had ever felt in his life. "Professor Washington, I owe you an apology. That was inexcusable behavior." "Apology accepted," Samuel said simply. "But maybe next time you'll think twice before judging someone by their job or the color of their skin. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got floors to finish before my shift." Ends. As Samuel walked back toward his cleaning cart, a voice called out from the crowd, "Professor Washington, wait." A young woman stepped forward, Catherine Morrison, the gala's event coordinator. Would you be willing to perform a full recital for us? We could arrange it for next month. A proper concert, with proper recognition." Samuel paused, considering. "Well, I suppose these old fingers could use the exercise. And Dolores always did say I should get back on stage." The crowd erupted in applause again, and this time Marcus found himself clapping the loudest of all. As the evening wound down, Marcus approached Samuel one more time. "Professor, I meant what I said about the apology. Is there anything I can do to make this right?" Samuel thought for a moment. "Well, the music program at the community center where I volunteer could use some new instruments. Budget's been tight." "Consider it done," Marcus said immediately. "And Professor, thank you for the lesson about music and about people." Samuel nodded and returned to his work, humming softly as he pushed his cart toward the exit. Behind him, he left a room full of people who would never again make assumptions about a person based on their uniform or their job. And somewhere in the soft echo of his footsteps on marble, the ghost of Chopin himself seemed to approve. The gleaming Steinway & Sons grand piano sat in the center of the marble-floored atrium like a sleeping giant, its ebony surface reflecting the crystal chandelier overhead. Marcus Rothwell III adjusted his Italian silk tie and smirked at the crowd of socialites gathered around him at the charity gala for the Metropolitan Arts Foundation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Marcus announced, his voice carrying the entitled drawl of old money, "I have a proposition that'll make this evening far more entertaining than another boring silent auction." The crowd turned toward the 35-year-old tech billionaire, their champagne glasses glinting in the soft light. Marcus had inherited his grandfather's railroad fortune and multiplied it tenfold through strategic investments in Silicon Valley startups. Tonight, like every night, he was the center of attention. "You see this magnificent instrument?" He gestured grandly toward the piano. This particular piece was owned by Vladimir Horowitz himself.